Sorry, maybe next time. It's really important, I can't put it off.
Saying that, he grabbed his backpack and waved his hand in goodbye at the rest of his classmates.
See you later, guys. Have a nice weekend. As he went down the stairs, Naruto had a distracted look on his face. She likes me. He was not experienced when it came to interacting with the opposite sex, but due to his enhanced sense of smell, Naruto could roughly identify other people's emotions. He could smell people's fear, anger, sadness, happiness, hatred, or feelings of attraction. It was an underrated but very useful aspect of his quirk, one that he had not told anyone else about except for his parents. He let out a wry smile while thinking that, unlike how unpopular he had been at school in his previous life, in his current life, he had always been one of the more popular boys in his class, throughout all of his school years. I guess that not annoying the heck out of everyone made all the difference. These cute fox ears must have helped too.
He absent-mindedly ran a hand through his hair and scratched his fox ears. They seemed even fluffier than usual due to a pair of fluffy white mufflers that had been stuffed inside. He was still not used to wearing them because he had gotten them only 2 days ago. They hindered his sense of balance sometimes, especially when he stood up quickly from a chair, but they did help a great deal in protecting him from loud sounds. He knew that it was only a matter of time before he became accustomed to them.
Eventually, he reached the gates of UAA. A rather well-built but still timid-looking boy was waiting for him, his face haggard from exhaustion. It was none other than Midoriya Izuku. "Yo!" Naruto said, and bumped fists with the boy. "Hey," Izuku greeted him, not even having the energy to smile. "What happened to you, man? You look like you got run over by a truck," Naruto said with a chuckle, looking at all the bruises on Izuku's face, and the bandages wrapped around his neck and hands. "Fuck off," the boy said with a growl, looking as if he was barely stopping himself from attacking him. Naruto was taken aback. It was the first time he had ever heard Izuku swear. But then, he grinned fairly.
A wooden bow staff made whooshing sounds as a green-haired boy used his entire strength to smash downwards. His opponent, also wielding a similar bow staff, easily parried the hit by holding his weapon horizontally above his head. In the next moment, a powerful kick in the gut sent the green-haired boy flying. "You telegraphed your attack and left yourself wide open," Naruto said, his voice serious.
Lifting his staff above his head, Naruto slammed it at the boy that was coughing his stomach out, showing no mercy. Izuku barely managed to roll away, escaping by a breath. Seeing how the ground cracked from the hit, however, made the boy's heart start beating as if to jump out of his chest. Despite that he was out of breath, and still coughing from the vicious kick in the stomach, Izuku forced himself to stand up on his feet and clenched his hands around his weapon. "I'm not done yet," Izuku shouted with as much conviction as he could, and charged at Naruto with a scream. The blonde swatted his strike to the side with one end of his staff, and immediately hit Izuku in the face with the staff's other end. He did not get up again this time around. Instead, his body started shaking and sobbing. Sounds came from him. "Are you serious? Crying?" Naruto said in disbelief. He came at the boy and lifted him to stand on his feet, his hands clenched on the collar of his t-shirt. "Is that what you're going to do when a villain tries to kill you? You'll cry like a little girl. Do you think they'll feel pity for you and let you go?" He threw Izuku away and grabbed his bow staff from the place where he had discarded it before turning away to leave. "Useless, gutless, and lazy. You'll never amount to anything if you keep going like that. Pro hero my ass. You'll always be a reject." "No, even below the rejects," Naruto said over his shoulder. It was completely out of character for the kind and cheerful fox boy to speak like that. Until then, he had always been supportive and helpful toward Izuku. The words he was saying right now sounded more like the words that Bakugo often spat at the green-haired boy. However, in his current state of mind, Izuku could not see the strangeness of the situation. Instead, those words, so similar to how Bakugo often bullied him, triggered his anger. "Shut up!" Izuku screamed. "Shut up! Shut up!" Naruto did not appear to be surprised in the least by his outburst. He scoffed at him. I wasted nearly a year of my life training you. And for what? You failed the entrance exam. All you do is cry. Now you asked me to train you again. Once again, you're crying. The more calm and derisive Naruto appeared to be, the more enraged Izuku was becoming. You trained me, beating the crap out of me every day. You call this training? Fuck you and your training. For over a week now, ever since Izuku decided to go through Naruto's training, to learn how to tap into the latent strength of his body, his hysterical strength, the blonde pushed him to the limits mercilessly. After making him run out of stamina and energy completely by running, they would fight. But calling that a fight was a stretch. It was a one-sided beatdown. After nearly 1 week of bitter suffering, he could no longer bear the exhaustion. He could not endure the pain coming from his bruised and battered body. He could no longer endure the verbal and physical abuse anymore. He was at his limit. Maybe if you actually learned what I taught you wouldn't get mauled like that every day. Is it my fault you can do anything? Naruto said indifferently. You know nothing. You know nothing about my struggles. You don't know how it feels to be quirkless. Shut up. Shut up, asshole! Izuku screamed and charged at Naruto madly. But Naruto easily parried his wild swing and countered with a right cross that made Izuku stumble back on wobbly feet. If Izuku had been in his right mind, he would have noticed that the Fox boy's punches were far less powerful than usual, that he was going easy on him. But he wasn't thinking straight. Emboldened by the fact that Naruto's punch did much less damage than he had expected, Izuku charged back at him again with a tackle, shooting down for a double leg. But Naruto met his tackle head-on, and before Izuku could wrap his arms around the back of his legs and take him down, the blonde's right knee smashed into his face. It was a method often used by strikers to defend against wrestlers. Izuku fell face first on the ground, unable to muster even the slightest strength to get up anymore. I tried to help you, you know. He heard Naruto's voice coming from above. It sounded a bit muffled, but he could still understand the words perfectly. Quirkless as you are, I didn't want to let you jump head first into danger and get yourself killed. But you are helpless. You can't do anything. Just a pathetic crybaby. You'll die on your first patrol mission against some cannon fodder villain, bringing a bad name and shame to all heroes. If that's the case, I might as well do it myself. I'll send you away quickly and painlessly. Izuku felt the end of a wooden staff rolling his body until he was on his back, with eyes on the sky. What? You don't think I will kill you? Naruto asked. You think I don't have the guts? Saying that, the blonde pressed the end of his bow staff into the notch of Izuku's neck, that dip in someone's neck between the Adam's apple and the sternum. Izuku's eyes widened in disbelief, and he grabbed the end of the staff with both of his hands. Despair flooded him when he felt the stick going deeper into his throat, suffocating him. You wouldn't be the first I killed. How do you think that sludge villain that had attacked me died? Do you think some random vigilante just happened to pass by and saved me? Naruto let out a mocking laugh and started pressing the staff harder into the green-haired boy's neck.
He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. Izuku screamed in his mind, tears falling from his bloodshot eyes uncontrollably. I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
Cracking noises suddenly came from the part of the stick where Izuku's hands were clenched around. As if I'd let you kill me. Izuku screamed, and half of Naruto's staff was suddenly shattered into splinters. He rolled away from the end of the blonde staff and jumped up to his feet in an impressive display of agility and flexibility. Then, still screaming, he lunged at Naruto and punched him with his entire strength. But the blonde did not evade his punch and let Izuku hit him. Possessing a strength abnormal for a body like his, Izuku's punch sent a 70 kg heavy boy flying through the air nearly 2 meters before he collapsed. However, upon connecting with that powerful punch, it was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes, and Izuku finally regained his clarity of mind. He looked at the collapsed Naruto on the ground, and then at his still clenched fist. His entire body started shaking, and he started crying anew. But these were no longer tears of despair or pain. They were tears of relief. I did it, he said through his sobs. His entire body was one big bruise, and he had almost died only a few moments ago. At least he had truly believed that he was going to die. But in that moment, Izuku felt joy like no other time in his life. "I did it," he said again, and let out a cry that sounded like a mixture between a sob and a cheer. Naruto stood up from the place where he crashed and knelt in front of Izuku. He wrapped Izuku in his arms in a brotherly hug and said, his voice filled with remorse, "I'm sorry for what I did to you, Izuku. I'm so sorry. I tried for almost 1 week to push you beyond your limits, but it wasn't working. Making you believe you are in a life and death situation was the only method left. I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of the things I told you." Naruto's words made the floodgates open, and Izuku started bawling his eyes out, hugging the blonde back for all he was worth. I know, don't apologize. It's my fault too, I'm sorry," Izuku cried. Having regained his wits, he understood what Naruto had done to him. There was no way that someone as kind and helpful as Naruto would suddenly change his character and speak such words to him, much less try to kill him. But he had needed to push Izuku to his limits, physically and mentally. He had brought him to the edge of despair and even made him think that he was going to die. As the shadow of death encroached on his soul, his exhausted body was suddenly energized. His fear of death and his desire to live made his survival instincts kick into overdrive. Having long since reached his limits, that burst of strength made him overcome them. Hysterical strength, a power beyond the limits of the human body, he had achieved it. All the beatings that he had taken until then had not been for naught. All his tears, sweat, blood, and effort had not been in vain. He had done it! As that feeling of relief washed over him, adrenaline quickly left his system, and Izuku felt his eyes grow heavy. His body lost its strength completely, and he closed his eyes, falling unconscious into Naruto's arms. Chapter 7. A New Target. Ha! I'm beat, he thought, and let out a sigh as he slowly made his way out of the woods outside of Misutafu City. Driving Izuku to the very limit had been taxing on himself as well. Rather than being physically exhausted, he was mentally exhausted. Treating his friend so badly and putting him through such punishment had made his stress level increase greatly.
On his back, the bruised and battered Izuku was sleeping soundly, snoring and drooling on his shoulder. As for their backpacks, Naruto had tied them to his fluffy fox tail.
But at least he did it. He was proud of Izuku. He was also amazed at the boy's tenacity and stubbornness. For someone who had grown up in a peaceful environment to have that kind of willpower, it was amazing to say the least. That's because the average people in this world were different. Living in a time of peace, in a country where villains were mostly suppressed by the strength of the heroes and the existence of All Might, the average people were weak-willed, physically weak and mentally weak as well. They expected someone else to save them. His thoughts going back to Konoha, Naruto, inadvertently, started comparing his previous life with his current life on Earth. Back in the elemental nations, children were indoctrinated from a very frail age to believe that there was no greater honor than to protect their village. The so-called will of fire. For the sake of the village, even sacrificing one's family was noble and just. In times of war, it was normal to even send children as young as 10 on the front lines, serving as little more than cannon fodder against the enemy forces. That's how Uchiha Itachi ended up massacring his entire family for the sake of Konoha. That's also how my father had committed suicide for the sake of sealing Kurama into my body. That's how he had made me into a human sacrifice. It was all for the sake of the village. A shinobi endures. A shinobi sacrifices everything for the village. His train of thought stopped as he finally exited the woods and the nightlights of the city appeared in the distance. You're sleeping without a care, aren't you? Naruto asked Izuku despite knowing that he couldn't hear him. It's okay. You deserve it. But, man, you sure gained a lot of weight over the past year. You got heavier than I am. Did you bulk up that much? He knelt on the ground, on the side of the road, and put the sleeping Izuku down for a moment to catch his breath. Shit! Why am I so tired today? Raising his hands above his head, he stretched his back and let out a loud yawn, his sharper-than-average teeth glinting in the moonlight. Wiping his yawn tears away, he absent-mindedly scratched at his lower back for a while. But after that, he put the sleeping Izuku again on his back and started walking again towards the city. As weeks passed, the students of 1A class at UA had become increasingly familiar with each other. In everyone's minds, several labels were created about their classmates, and as Minato Minoru would put it, a sort of social hierarchy appeared. There were the popular kids, the average ones, the perverts, the bully, and so on. A label had been slapped on Naruto in his classmates' minds too. To put it simply, if students were given the freedom to choose their partner during All Might's combat training classes, most of them would be clamoring to get either Todoroki Shoto or Uzumaki Naruto on their team. Always cheerful and helpful, having a decent quirk, an incredible combat strength, and a mind that came up with all sorts of devious plans, it was not difficult to see why he had become so popular. However, all that was only during the class. Once classes ended, the Fox boy never hung out with them. It was now the third week into their first high school year, and Naruto had yet to form any close friendships with anyone in his class. Every time someone asked him to join them after class, he would say that he was busy, and make himself scarce in a matter of seconds.
I wonder what's Uzumaki's secret. Why is he avoiding us? Kirishima said as he watched the Fox boy grab his backpack and wave his hand in goodbye at everyone before leaving. He's always turning down people asking him out, and I've never seen him eat together with us in the cafeteria either.
I mean, I wouldn't eat at the cafeteria either if I were in his place, Kaminari said. Have you seen the kind of lunch boxes he brings to school every day?
Ever since Naruto had turned a new leaf, his mother had started pampering and spoiling him much more than before. Naruto wasn't avoiding anyone on purpose. There was just no point in him going to the cafeteria when his mom cooked for him, and after class, he was busy with his training. He didn't have time to fool around with children. I bet he's seeing a girl. The tiny boy, Minato Minoru said, his face green with envy. Eichmann bastards like him always have the girls flock around them. He's probably seeing 3 girls at the same time and making them cook for him. He's surely.
The boy's dark ramblings were suddenly stopped when Tenya Tuidia smacked him upside the head. Minato-san, that was a very rude way to talk about your classmate. Regardless of the class rep's scolding, Mineta's words had already inflicted the maximum damage if the looks on the faces of the other students were anything to go by. Hey, who wants to see what Naruto is up to after class? Mina Ashido asked. I kinda want to know too, Kaminari said. Count me in, Mineta said. Mineta, Mina, and Kaminari weren't the only ones curious about Naruto's secret. 3 others decided to tag along: Yoayorizu, Kirishima, and Kyoka. Coming out in the courtyard of the school, they saw Naruto waiting for someone at the gates. 2 minutes later, a green-haired 15-year-old boy with a strong-looking body, but an innocent face came out of the school building and bumped fists with the Fox boy as a greeting. Who's that guy? Do any of you know him? Kaminari asked. Keep it down, you idiot, or he's gonna hear us. Did you forget about his sense of hearing? Kyoka jeered at him in a harsh whisper. Figures you didn't forget about it, the blonde countered snidely, only to let out a yowl of pain when one of her earphone jacks stabbed him in the neck. Naruto turned his head towards the noise, only to see Kaminari rolling on the ground in pain comically, and another 5 or 6 of his classmates glaring at him murderously.
See you tomorrow, guys, Naruto said out loud and waved his hand in goodbye before turning around and leaving with his friend.
What's with that? Mina burst after Naruto left with Izuku through the gates. Whenever we ask him to hang out with us after class, he always says he's busy. That's what he's busy with. Who's that guy anyway? This is so annoying. I know everyone in Class 1B by name and appearance, but I haven't seen his friend until now. He's not from the hero course, Yoayorozu said. 30 minutes later, following Naruto and Izuku from a distance, the 6 UA students found themselves staring at a dingy-looking gym from across the street. Now what? We can't just barge in. We'll blow our cover. Who cares? I say we just go home now, Mineta said and clicked his tongue. The tiny boy had been hoping that their little spying would uncover some dirty secret about Naruto and make his place in the social hierarchy of the class collapse. Seeing him doing something as mundane as going to the gym greatly disappointed him. But a boy next to him had a completely different opinion. Uzumaki was a gym rat. Awesome, Hiroshima yelled, and before the other 5 could stop him, he broke into a run and barged into the gym. Hiroshima, wait! Mina yelled in annoyance and ran after him too. The rest could only sigh helplessly and run after them inside. What kind of place is this? Yaoyorozu said with a stutter. For a young lady that had lived in a select environment, the atmosphere in the gym left her momentarily intimidated. She wasn't the only one though. The 2 other girls, Mina and Jiro, and Mineta Minoru were scared too. The 4 teens unconsciously huddled together, no different than how herd animals reacted when surrounded by predators. Nearly 20 men of all ages and appearances were standing around an open space where they would take turns doing deadlifts. The whole gym reverberated with their screams of encouragement and their manly grunts of exertion as they gave it their all to surpass their limits.
The group of teens arrived there just in time to see Naruto shoving his green-haired friend in the middle of the circle, in the open area. Wearing proper deadlifting equipment, special shoes, a weightlifting belt, and shin protectors, Midoriya Izuku rubbed his palms with some chalk powder while the rest of the guys in the circle around him were yelling at the top of their lungs.
Kill it, Midoriya. You can do it, boy. Fight. Wow. The bass-boosted music blasting in the background, the roars of the men filled with testosterone, and the loud sounds of weights slamming on the floor made even Kaminari huddle up together with Mineta and the 3 girls. Out of the 6 students that followed Naruto after school, only Kirishima was having a good time. Scratch that. The red-haired boy looked positively electrified. He had joined the crowd of burly men around the ring and had started screaming together with them too. Finishing his preparations, Izuku stepped in front of the heavy barbell. Bending down, he stood still for a few moments to find a good position with his hands. Then, with a grunt of exertion, the muscles of his arms, back and thighs bulged as he stood up. Hold it! Hold it! 2 more seconds. Done. Good job, boy.
Izuku threw his barbell to the ground and let out a scream of victory. At that moment, his usually timid and nerdy personality was nowhere to be seen. Adrenaline coursing through his veins, Izuku yelled.
One more time. When they saw him adding 2 more plates, 2.5 kg each, the men erupted into beast-like screams again. Many in the crowd could lift 5 or even 10 times heavier weights than what the quirkless boy could. However, over the past year, they noticed the nerdy boy's transformation, his consistency, and his hard work. Although quirkless and much weaker than the majority of them, Izuku had earned their respect with his hard work. Moreover, despite their intimidating looks, gym rats were some of the nicest people one could meet. Seeing a boy as honest and as diligent as Izuku, they wanted to cheer him on. Good job, man, you broke your record, 155 kg. Naruto congratulated Izuku once he came out from the deadlifting ring. "Ha, thanks, Izuku said and laughed with a foolish expression on his face. It was almost as if he was high. 8, my turn now, Naruto said with a grin. They high-fived each other before he stepped into the open area. Wearing black shorts, a bright orange wife beater, a pair of orange sneakers on his feet, a special fitness mask that covered his nose and mouth, and having 2 fluffy fox ears on his head and a bushy golden foxtail at his back. Naruto's appearance was rather goofy. Oi, is he serious? Hiroshima mumbled to himself when he saw that the fox boy continued to put plates on the barbell until it became 5 times heavier than his body weight. Standing at a height of 165 cm, Naruto weighed only 70 kg, bushy foxtail included. Compared to Izuku, who had bulked up and looked rather muscular after 1 year of intense training, Naruto looked the same as usual, fit and toned but not muscular, rather similar to how he used to look at that age in his previous life. Due to his Fox Quirk, his body was predisposed towards agility rather than brute strength. Still, the blonde had never given up on increasing his physical strength. After years of training his body, although his quirk gave him an overwhelming agility perk, his strength had increased steadily thanks to his hard work as well. Izuku watched in slight envy how the blonde deadlifted 350 kg without any evident signs of strain on his face. It was impossible for quirkless people to lift such weights at the age of 15. Putting the barbell down, Naruto momentarily let go of it and scratched at his lower back. "Did you get flies in your tail, Blondie?" someone asked, making everyone bark with laughter at his expense. "Shut up. You're just jelly. You don't get any girls with that bald head of yours," Naruto retorted, eliciting another round of laughter. Bantering like that was the norm among them. As a hardcore gym, it had a rather small number of members, so pretty much everyone knew everyone. Sharing a common interest and frequenting the same place for a long time would naturally lead to people becoming friends after a while. Putting 2 more plates of 20 kg each, this time Naruto cried out in exertion when he pulled the barbell up. However, he could not hold the deadlift for more than 2 seconds and dropped it on the floor with a loud bang. "What happened? Did you not eat today, boy?" One of the older men laughed teasingly. "Sk, you've been slacking off as of late, haven't you?" A mountain of a man with 4 arms as thick as Naruto's waist said. "Only 400 kg and you're grunting like you're about to die. I can do biceps curls with that weight." The first time that Izuku had witnessed a scene like that a year ago, he had thought in his mind, no way Naruto would fall for a cheap provocation like that. But the reality couldn't be any more different than his thoughts. The blonde's arteries started pulsing in his neck, and he growled at the 4-armed man that laughed at him.
"Ha, I'm 70 freaking kilos and my tail is half of my weight, but I can lift 5 times my weight, 6 times my weight when I'm in shape. How much can you lift? 2 or 3 tons. But you're heavier than a hippo, you 4-armed fat ass. You can barely lift your own body weight."
Izuku burst into laughter alongside everyone else. It was always a delight to watch Naruto getting riled up and arguing with his mates at the gym. The Fox boy seemed to have a gift for making people open up, and his cheerful and fun personality always made for a good time. It also had to be said that Naruto was even more rambunctious than usual whenever he went to the gym. It was as if his brain turned off whenever he stepped into a room filled with weights. But then again, it wasn't that unusual. Men and boys in general were like that. Whenever they gathered in large groups, their collective IQ dropped by half. Leaving the deadlift ring for someone else to have their turn, Naruto came back to Izuku and plopped himself on the floor without a care. "Ah, today is not my day," he said with a groan and scratched his lower back furiously. "I've also had this itch on my spine for like a week, every time I strain myself." "Maybe you should get it checked out," Izuku said. "You can't mess around with back injuries." "But it doesn't hurt. There's no pain, just an itchy sensation," Naruto said and frowned at the mental struggle against giving in to the urge to rub his lower back again. "But I guess it wouldn't hurt to see Recovery Girl tomorrow at school. Anyway, you've been on a roll lately." Izuku clenched his fist, the muscles of his forearm bulging slightly. "Yeah. Even since you made me unlock my hysterical strength, I feel I'm getting stronger at a faster rate than before. I haven't managed to get into that state again, but I've gotten stronger overall. Still, it's nothing compared to you. When will I get strong enough to lift 400 kilos, he said, and trailed off a bit, bummed out.
"You knew what you were getting into when you decided to become a pro hero without having a quirk," Naruto said. "If you have time to think about useless stuff and start doubting yourself, you might as well pick up some weights and get back at it. No pain, no gain," he said and suddenly shouted at the end, startling Izuku. "You're such a dork," Izuku said with a laugh. Working out, getting stronger, and being always encouraged by Naruto had done wonders for his self-confidence. He still had a rather shy personality when interacting with strangers, but with Naruto, he had become comfortable enough to even exchange insults and banter.
Still, in spite of his words, Izuku stood up, intent on actually listening to what Naruto told him. He's right. I don't have the leisure to be lazying around and moaning about being weak and quirkless. I'll just have to work harder. He picked up some dumbbells and started his workout routine while Naruto went to the squat rack. Today was a leg day for the blonde. It was a few minutes later that the guys crowded around the deadlifting ring broke into a commotion. Holy shit. She's gotta have a strength-based quirk or something. Damn, that's one strong woman. Their remarks piqued Naruto's interest. Regular women disliked gyms, and even fewer were interested in weightlifting. He had not seen a woman or a girl come to that gym in months. Furthermore, this wasn't exactly the kind of gym that even athletic girls would feel comfortable in. It was filled with burly and muscular men. It stank terribly of sweat, hence why he was always wearing a special gym mask. And the gym apparatus was rather old and rough-looking. But Naruto liked it better like that. A messy and stinky gym rather than some luxurious place where the average members would be teens and young people that come to flirt and take selfies to post on social media instead of working out. Standing up from the floor, he went to the deadlifting ring to see what was going on too. By the time he finally managed to shove his way until he got a first-row view, the woman in question was preparing to lift the barbell for a second time. Very little could be seen of her upper body due to the large and loose blue hoodie that covered her torso and her head, and most of her face as well. But her yoga pants did little to hide her long but strong and muscular legs.